Well, here we are for the last Q&A of
last one, yeah.
And I think
I love a Q&A, Stephen, as well.
I know. I suppose I was having to think about this one overnight and realising that this monologue was the cornerstone monologue, really, wasn't it?
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, this was the one where I wrote a wee blog in 2014 for the Commonwealth Games when Liz Carruthers was directing Talking Heads at the Mitchell.
Right.
And we were all talking about. We asked the actors and the director then to do a wee blog for the website for Commonwealth Games just to give extra context. And I wrote a wee blog called Lovely Peas, which was really the story of this woman. And so it was the one monologue that really kicked off the whole series, because it's the one story that kept coming back. I like dementia, it never goes away. It keeps reminding you of itself. And this was one I think Lisa and I probably spent the most time talking about in terms of where it came from. However, let's do this properly.
Well, let's officially talk about it then. So, just to say welcome again to the Paisley Suite Conversations with Our Playwrights. And today we're going to feature Lisa Nicoll, who has written Lovely Peas. So, Stephen, tell us, what was the inspiration for Lovely Peas?
Well, the inspiration for Lovely Peas came from a period of research that I carried out for the Paisley 2021 City of Culture bid. We had been meeting groups and community groups around Paisley and Renfrewshire in that time, back in 2016 and 2017. And one of the stories that emerged at that time that was quite telling was the fact that over 3,000 people in Renfrewshire were suffering from dementia. And that was a big standout moment where, accompanying that in the national news, there were kind of nightly stories of people in care and care settings who were being abused and who were being badly treated. And one of the thoughts that I had at that time was, there's another side to the story of care, and there's another side to the person in care, and we often don't hear that story. What we hear is the bad news or the stigma attached to their condition. And it was at that moment Lisa was also working with us on Paisley 2021 projects in Fergusley, and we chatted about where this might go and the idea of the monologue and its original inspiration, who was a woman in care in Foxbar and Paisley, began to kind of emerge and meld into something. And I think Lisa took it in a very, very clever direction.
Lovely, good. Well, Lisa, having been given that brief from Stephen, where did you come up with the idea for Lovely Peas?
Yeah, I think that, just following on from what Stephen said, one of the other things that he really flagged at the time was about how the carers, the care workers who were coming in at the time as well, were being given less and less time with the people that they were coming in to care for. And so for me, when I was approaching Lovely Peas, I was like, right, there's two things going on here. There is this woman, for me, who is going through the onset of dementia, but there's also this thing about the care system as well and how people are being forgotten about. So for me, when Stephen was talking about this, I got really excited about it, because I had first-hand experience of a neighbour who, when I lived in a flat in White Street in Glasgow, who lived downstairs with me, who had dementia. So she is based on the person that Stephen talked to, but she is very, very much based on my neighbour. And it was myself who ended up actually having to look after this neighbour, because her daughter was never there. The carers came in very occasionally, and I was the one that was there to help her when she had a gas leak, when she was putting a kettle on the cooker she shouldn't have been, when she was found outside with her dolly, who she thought was her child. So it was really inspired by what Stephen had told me. But I always feel as a writer, I need to access something that comes from my gut And so I think Mrs. Cummings was her name, I have to say. She's no longer with us, but I think that that really helped like me find that angle into it, and also how I felt about seeing this woman and how actually I never knew her in terms of beforehand. She was about 95, 96 at the time, and she had a lot of gusto behind her as well. And I think that's kind of what inspired me to write Edna, with this kind of drive that she had, and that it's not just about here's a poor person who is suffering from dementia. There is a person inside there, and that it doesn't just happen. And what I've always been fascinated with is these lucid moments where everything is just normal, and then all of a sudden the character, well, a person with dementia can be in a world that they can't access, and they don't understand again, and where that frustration or upsetness comes from too. So that's where it was inspired by. Just as soon as Stephen came to me with we talked about the idea, I just immediately felt part of this world. And yeah, I just wanted Edna to be a little bit cheeky as well.
Well, Edna's a wonderfully engaging character, and you can feel her frustration at not being in complete control of what she's doing, you know. And I love the sort of story of her and her husband as well, and the relevance of the peas to that relationship. Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you the story behind that, though, is that, so again, how I access things is going, right, how do I bring little bits of Lisa in? I was listening to an interview with Jimmy McGovern the other day, and he was talking about his latest period, Time, that's on BBC at the moment, and he was saying there's aspects of him in every character. So I always think, where am I in this? So my mum and dad had a great relationship. My dad passed away 5 years ago, but my dad was a bit obsessed with tinned peas as well, Stephen. So this actually linked in quite well, and it had to be processed peas. So for me, that was something that came in, and my mum and dad did go on a cruise, and my mum had this silver dress, and you know, so for me, I accessed the relationship there because my mum nursed my dad through cancer, and that relationship that comes there very much comes from my family as well. So I kind of brought that into it, and when my mum read, I let my mum read the script, and she had a wee tear to her eye as well, because there is that association. So for me, it was about building on the experience of the women in Foxbar, this women who lived, you know, in White Street, and also my family kind of connection as well.
And how do you feel about the lovely Jeanette Fogo, who brings Edna to life? I think she's done a grand job.
She's wonderful, and Jeanette has this great cheekiness about her as well when you watch it, and that's what you want. You just want that kind of, there's that little spark behind her eye that you might just think, oh yeah, she was a bit of a kind of goer in her time and all that kind of thing as well. But also with the sensitivity of not knowing where she is or what she's doing, and the frustration. I think that it's a real challenge for an actor to bring both of those things out in a story that is only, you know, a short piece as well. And Jeanette's she's just wonderful at doing it, just fabulous.
Yeah.
I think what I liked about Jeanette was her quirkiness, that, you know, she could turn from quite a demure moment to suddenly very angry. You know, I think the striking thing about the issues that the piece raised were aspects of care that sometimes people don't understand or don't perceive out with. That, you know, the care system, or if you don't have people in your family in care, then you don't know all the practicalities. And it's the moment when she says, "Where's the bloody key?"
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the key is in a key box outside that the care worker can access, but they've no idea where this key has gone, and they're determined to get out. And that, for me, was a really powerful moment in the piece, where you see the real, you know, effect of loneliness and isolation and fear that people with dementia go through. That, you know, the reason the character's called Lovely Peas, as Lisa said, is because it was inspired by real stories. Because this one particular woman who was in Foxbar, you know, the care workers would never really give their names out, and the care worker that inspired this particular piece was my own mother, and she just called this client Lovely Peas because she got the same lovely peas night after night after night and demanded them, but probably hated them. And I think what was great was Lisa and I's conversations it all boiled into the mix, and it all came back out feeling very recognisable and true to real life. So I think what Jeanette did was she covered those kind of quirky, humorous aspects of a generation that are now passing, but the anger and the fear and the lack of understanding about what's happening to their care package, even who's coming in to see them, who are they, why are they here? So it was, I think all those issues really boiled up largely to the fore in this piece.
And also Jeanette as well, like in terms of her, like those moments where she was, is reminiscing as well, the idea of when things were a better time, you know, I think that's what I really wanted to get through as well, you know, when there wasn't technology, when, you know, you had to save your money, you know, getting the speed bank card and, you know, all of these little things, you know, you just saw her going back to that world that's like, this world seems a lot better than where I am now, and maybe I want to be in this world as well. So she managed to do that so well without being, I guess, whimsical as well. But yeah, just really, you kind of felt she was there, which was really beautiful to watch as well.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so upsetting, is that she has these grand memories of being the union rep on the bus and going to the dancing and going to get her hair done, and yet where is her life now? It's all in this little notebook that she keeps with her, you know, and so that she knows who Eric is, who Erin is, who the postman is. Yeah. No, beautifully done, beautifully done.
And just what you were saying there, Mary, about you know, when she goes to get her hair done, you know, I was sending Stephen messages and he was putting them out on Facebook. I was like, where are the local places in Paisley where you would have got your hair done? Where was the, you know, where was the local pub? And for me, you know, Stephen and I talked about this in one of our sessions about, you know, for me, you always want a story to be universal, but you need it to be specific as well, because then the people of Paisley can go, this belongs to me because I know where that hairdresser's is, I know where that pub is, you know, I know where that corner shop is. But also for me, as a writer, I feel that it is universal still, that it doesn't matter that, you know, the towns that they talk about are Foxbar, Fergusley, you know, as opposed to, you know, Paris and Rome. You know, it could be any city or town, you know, all over the UK that you could be referring to as well.
Yeah, and I love that moment where she imagines herself as Princess Grace of Monaco. She's just fabulous, isn't she? She imagines herself being as fabulous as that.
Well, the story behind that is that years ago I went on a cruise with my mum and dad and an ex-partner of mine, and we went to Monaco, and I think maybe I had that idea when I was in Monaco.
Oh, you were Grace Kelly, were you?
They always say never write about places that you've never been, and I thought, oh wait a minute, I think that she should be Grace Kelly because I like that.
Oh, that was fabulous. So Stephen, I would hope that you would agree that all three of the pieces that we've done, you've managed to keep it close to Paisley, and the writers have managed to inject lots of relevant information about Paisley in that.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, obviously this project's been funded by Renfrewshire Council as part of its Culture and Heritage Events programme, and it was really essential from my point of view that if these were to be a kind of new set of Paisley talking heads, then they had to have Paisley all over them. But ultimately we got characters that we recognised, but we also got some surprises in the other monologues where we got new characters that we didn't know, but they still have the lingua franca of Paisley, you know, the way they speak, you know, some are slightly pan-loafy and others are very working class and recognisable. And I think that aspect of them feeling that they come from a town and not a big city, that their concerns are local, and that's very current in people's thinking at the moment. You know, that city life, you know, being in a city and being under a care system can feel different, but being in a town, you probably feel more looked after, and there's a better care system in a smaller town. And that's certainly a hallmark of Renfrewshire. So, you know, we were keen, as Lisa said at the beginning, not to emphasise just the sad aspect of this particular story, because it's a harsh lesson to watch someone feel detached from their family and their support. But there was also a great deal of laughter and a great deal of humour, and that's what came across in the clients that we met, hence the code names. One was called Lovely Peas, one was called something else, and often care workers would use these wee nicknames to really, ease the pain of dealing with them and actually, get it out their system, because they're not really allowed to talk about their conditions or their actual location, but you would hear the stories, and the anecdotes came through very strong from people we'd met in Roar Connections and the Disability Resource Centre, as well as these retired care workers. And actually the story was universal. What had changed was a care package that used to be half an hour that included cooking, cleaning, a bit of shopping, a bit of washing up, a bit of chat, a bit of familial care or familiar care, and what was reduced to a tea and a tuck for 10 minutes and popped off to bed at 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night with cocoa and pills. That's not care. That's just sort of tidying people away. And I think that change in the care system has been fundamental. Yeah. And we need to get back to a way of thinking of care as being much more rounded and more human.
Absolutely. Lisa, what do you think happens to Edna?
Oh, what happens to Edna? I've got these things in my head. I unfortunately feel that she becomes part of the system that Stephen's talking about, where she is forgotten about. And I think part of the reason that I brought in that, the idea that, it was the postman, the meter man, the window cleaner, but even they don't come as often as they used to. And it's given that thing of actually this care worker isn't going to come as often as she used to as well. And I think the sad thing is that, her family aren't on her doorstep. So for me, that's kind of the idea at the end. It's like going, what happens to this woman because her family aren't there, and who does take care of her, and all these other people who don't have family on their doorsteps? Because I think about, myself and go, I'm very lucky to go, well, within an hour and a half, I can be with family, but not everybody has that. And there are so many people of certain ages who don't have that. So I think that there's a further story I'd like to, explore with that. But I see Edna being in a home eventually, because no one is there, and that's not actually what I want for Edna. But I think for me in the story, I see that so many months, a year or so down the line, where she can't do anything, or she is doing things like my neighbour would do of putting an electric kettle on a gas hob. She is doing these things and that she has to to move on, which I think in lots of ways, and especially during COVID just now, a lot of people have deteriorated with dementia when they don't have that social contact. And I think that that's what happens to Edna.
Yeah, she's putting herself at risk, so somebody has to step in. I
think Lisa highlighted an interesting point about family care, that COVID's taught us a great lesson about how much time we can spend with family and how precious that time is. And one of the striking stories that I heard from care workers quite often was where elderly parents had lost one partner or were on their own. Quite often the care worker was the only person that person might see 7 days a week. And if that person changed, it caused real issues for them. But often if there were family involved, I remember there was one elderly lady who was a sister of a well-known Scottish actress, and she's a wonderful wee old lady, but on her own, and her family would turn up maybe once a fortnight, and they would cram the fridge full of ready meals and assume that they would stay fresh for 2 weeks. And I think the care workers had to intervene at one point and say, don't do this, don't bring this kind of food and stick it in a fridge and think that will be okay, because you'll give your mother food poisoning. And they weren't thinking, they're busy people working, they're not thinking about really what their mother really needs. They're just paying for the care service and hoping that the care workers pick up all the, dare I say it, pick up all the crap. And you can imagine the problems that some people would have because family thought they were doing the right thing, but actually we need a fundamentally different approach to care. And I'm afraid living out of ready meals is not it. Lovely peas sounds great though. I now have loads of tins of lovely peas in my garage that I can't get rid of.
Fantastic.
We're slowly working our way through them.
Oh, give them to a food bank.
I will do.
Yeah.
Also with just what you were saying there, Stephen, about you know, Erin, the care worker, you know, she was conflicted because she knew that she wanted to stay longer. And I think that's it. You know, some people just want to live by a system, do their job. Oh, well, I've been told can't do this, you know, the kind of computer says no syndrome kind of thing. But I think that shows the conflict from a character that we don't see, because I wanted to, Stephen talked to me about, you know, how do you make monologues active? And that was my key thing with how do we make this active? So having Erin there as a very active person, you know, why does she not speak? It's because Edna won't shut up. Sorry, it's because Edna won't shut up most of the time. But she did have this conflict that she wanted to be there more, but she couldn't. Her hands were tied because it's like she was, you know, had this kind of computer chip in her. You have to be here, you have to be there. And I think that it's really sad that not just in the care industry, but in so many other industries like that, that's happening now. And it doesn't seem human to me. And it's not something that I, support by any means at all.
Not at all, not at all. Well, thank you very much. That's been a very interesting conversation. And onwards and upwards. It'd be great to hear other people's responses to them now that we've had our bit on them. I don't know what you think.
And also, Mary, thank you to you, because I know that the language I write is very kind of poetical and put in a certain style when I write. And I love just seeing what a director can do with it. And I just love what you've done with it as well, and just really captured the rhythm, which is just beautiful. So thank you for that as well.
Well, that was very important to both Jeanette and myself, that lyricism was there, you know. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you very much again, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure, this short recordings that we've done, even though it was an immense exercise during COVID to record them in a venue that had only just reopened. I really look forward to these being in the stage at some point.
Yeah,
so
me too.
Watch this space.
Yeah, great. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you soon. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Okay, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.